As a wolf, I'm very insecure about other animals more competent and famous than me, so therefore I'm going to shit-talk a few. Quite frankly, I understand the craze about Mudang, as he's quite possibly the tastiest looking creature since Ryan Gosling. Like, that's not even a joke, he genuinely looks delicious. As I'm a wolf, and thus my desire for meat is insatiable, Moodeng has taken to avoiding his own reflection as I keep appearing them and getting closer like that woman from Insidious. Moodeng has two possible uses, as a cute tourist attraction or trebuchet ammunition. Moodeng is a pygmy, which is what I'd say before being sworn in as a policeman. Moodeng was born in in an open zoo in Thailand. Technically, I don't think zoos can be open on account of essentially being animal prisons, and if you're wondering, Moodeng was imprisoned for tax fraud, as well as his propensity for violent bouts of rage. Real hippos are absolute killing machines, violence incarnate. Moodeng, however, has all that rage and just a widow mouth to chomp with. Hippos happen to be the most lethal animal on earth, bar me when I see curly fries, and as my research continued, it noticed that pygmy hippos have, and I quote, a promiscuous mating system, certifying Moodeng as a fuckboy. Whether Moodeng can transition out of his child star phase and go on to have a full career is unclear, but after a recent intervention about his spiralling cocaine addiction, I have my doubts. Harambe is next, our favourite dead gorilla. Gorillas, it must be said, are a fascinating animal. Prior to the invention of tranquilizers, there was no real way to defeat a gorilla in single combat besides a patchy gunship. I'd love to be a fly on the tree, as a British explorer promptly ignored the far wiser and more experienced locals, warning that a creature resided in the jungle that could literally rip them in two whenever it wanted. These explorers, who had defeated in battle nothing more dangerous than the field shrew or a vole, tried to take on this thing.
Oh, man!
Fast forward 150 years and we have Harambe at Cincinnati Zoo. This is a sad story and thus it requires proper backing music. Harambe, there he was, minding his own business, doing gorilla things I presume, when a child fell into his enclosure. To quote-unquote save the child, Harambe was shot and killed. You may not be aware of this, but I was actually there on that day at Cincinnati Zoo and promptly went to the ticket office to rightly request a refund. I was quite startled to learn that everyone else that was there with me was saying that they were traumatised by the killing of Harambe, but more so, the mortal peril faced by the child. Whereas I believed it was totally part of the show, and I was disappointed to not see Harambe swing the child around its head like a rally towel. It was unfortunate that Cincinnati didn't have any stand your ground laws, where you're entitled to defend your property from home invaders with deadly force, but it wasn't really a surprise to see Harambe ultimately being shot, on account of being black. Paul the Octopus was a very famous German, can you believe this, octopus that during the South African World Cup predicted Germany's World Cup matches perfectly and selected Spain as the eventual winners that they were. With such incredible powers of foresight, I did notice that Paul was pretty fucking quiet on German politics between 1939 and 1945. Using what I presume was witchcraft, aka pussy magic, Paul was a celebrated member of the Oracles of Delphi, and it was he who warned Leonidas of Sparta against war of the Persians. Paul was later found dead at his enclosure shortly after the World Cup and the world learning of his incredible powers, and much like the death of Jeffrey Epstein, Paul the Octopus did not kill himself. It turns out that there was a film made about Paul called Kill Paul the Octopus, from China, of all places. I can only assume with the intention of eating him for his mystical powers, or to make their cocks bigger, like armadillo toes or tiger foreskin. We have another animal murder victim, which seems to be a theme, lured out of his protected region and shot by poachers. After communing with the dead with the aid of my new spirit guide Paul the Octopus, Cecil is quite frankly not having a good time in Lion Heaven, mainly on account of being ruthlessly bullied by his ancestors for being killed by a dentist, which is a bit like losing a boxing match against a bowl of shreddies. Some of his patients issued statements on this event by saying, The killer was cleared of wrongdoing by the notoriously ethical and not corrupt Zimbabwean government. Go figure. Bingus, a beloved internet cat, has been having a long-standing feud with fellow internet cat called Big Floppa, both names sounding like what a hippie would offer you to put on your tongue at Glastonbury. Bingus is quite frankly a direct affront to God. Only the Egyptians, who were forbidden from harming cats in any way, would let this breed of abomination live to flourish. Looking like what would be cooked in Nando's and implanted with a little flag like Iwo Jima, Bingus recently had some children, who I assume are called Tingus, Pingus and Fabricio. Big Floppa is the closest you can get to having a puma in your house without buying overpriced trainers. In a straight fight, Floppa would finish Bingus in the same amount of time it takes for a woman on a date with me to go to the bathroom and never come back. The breed of cat a Big Floppa is, known as a caracal, are known to be very aggressive, a bit like me when I see an unguarded box of French fancies. So it's no surprise to see the Bingus's chances crumble away, a bit like my parents' estimation of me when I started making these videos. Laika the dog was the first animal sent into orbit, much like Bingus if he decided to cross me. You may be surprised that Laika did not have a particularly good time when she was shot via rocket into space, with Soviet scientists quote-unquote surprised to see Laika's heart rate triple once liftoff began. Being surprised about this is a bit like being shocked that putting your cock in a bear trap hurt. Laika sadly passed away on this mission, and every year I light a smacko on her anniversary of her death and plot vengeance for my distant cousin. For the Orca section of this video, I debated on whether to have Shamu, the original icon of SeaWorld, or Kilikum, so I decided to settle on the one who'd killed the most trainers. If that hasn't made my stance on whether orcas should be kept in confinement and perpetual torture, then please allow me to make myself clear. Fuck them trainers. Yeah, all of them. Yes, I'm sure they loved animals, blah blah blah, but if you're going to keep an animal that should literally travel the world in a small glass container and then proceed to do jumps off its head, then quite frankly you had it coming. It's a bit like doing somersaults onto landmines or sending your children to religious Sunday schools. What did you think was going to happen? Next up we have oh no, hold on, I've got more shit to talk on orca trainers. Trying to ride on the back of an orca is a bit like drumming Slipknot onto an unexploded bomb, or simply going to O-Block. Please comment below what simile or metaphor you can come up with for trying to play with orcas. But really, imagine the audacity of seeing the world's most premier killer machine and think, you know what, I'm going to make it jump for a hoop and make its life miserable. Harambe Bubu is a beloved Ugandan beetle who's been the national icon of the country for over a year now. Known for his cute antics on Uganda's social media site Kwele, he has captured the heart of the nation. And by capture the heart of the nation, I mean I completely made him up. Yet there you are, totally on board with Bubu. His full name, if you're wondering, means dumb bastard, and Kwele means really. This joke was purely for my enjoyment. One day, if this YouTube fig works out, then maybe we'll get some Bubu merch. Lastly, Grumpy Cat, who looks at you with the same disappointment your father shares after telling him that you don't wish to be an engineer, but wish to become a fun little mime instead. Real name, Tartar Sauce, who I assume his owner was just fucking stupid and spelt tartar sauce wrong, which goes a long way to explaining how Grumpy Cat feels. Looking like me when I had to watch all of those VTubers, he's incredibly relatable, as he has the same expression that I would make after going all the way to SeaWorld and not getting to see a trainer die. For those who don't believe in fate, Grumpy Cat eventually died from a urinary tract infection, meaning that truly, till the very end, he was totally pissed off. That's all. Go fuck yourself. Bye! That's my sign off, by the way. I'll make it a thing.